Tonight's episode of the 31st Lap Podcast is brought to you by DirtTrackDigest.com. If it's on dirt, it's on Dirt Track Digest.
This is the 31st Lap Podcast, recorded live in the studios of FingerLakes1.com in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now, your hosts, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to episode number 233 of the 31st Lab Podcast. Chris Marquardt joining you from the North Park building here at Academy Square. Excited to have everybody along at home tuning in with us. We've been away for a little bit, but plenty of stuff has happened in the motorsports world between then and now. Most namely, we had Veterans Day and we had Thanksgiving in between there. And a ton of news and information has come out regarding the one and only FingerLakes Speedworld, which is scheduled for the beginning of next March 2018 at the FingerLakes Mall in right there in Auburn. So without any delay, going to be jumping right into it. Jim Olin, who's overseeing FingerLakes Speedworld for, I think this is the third year in a row now. Whoops, wrong tag. There it is. There we go. Now we got Jim Olin on the line. Jim's joining us to talk a little bit about what the show has become, some of the new additions for this year, some of the stuff that you're going to see back again, and Jim's going to be checking in with us a couple times here as we get closer and closer to that kickoff. Move-in night going to be that Friday, then the show running the 3rd and the 4th with tons of stuff going on. We've got the biggest change at this point that is drawing a lot of support is the addition of the model contest and all the model cars. We'll get into that stuff. We'll talk a little bit about who's going to be in center court, cars, teams, tracks that are going to be represented, as well as this show continues to grow and continues to grow momentum. And this year, the way the calendar falls, it'll be coming up the week ahead of Motorsports Expo in Syracuse, reaching out with some new marketing campaigns. So without any further ado, we've got Jim Olin. Jim, man, how are you?
I am excellent, Chris. How are you?
We're doing okay so far. So the big thing right now is you can start hearing about, well, not yet, but closer to the show. You've got a campaign put together where you're going to be able to hear about FingerLakes Speedworld on terrestrial radio in Syracuse and in the Auburn markets.
Yeah, that's what we're working on. As soon as we get the ad campaign together, we're going to air out there, working with Dinosaur Radio in Syracuse, WSEN, WLF Radio. So pretty excited about that. Good market. A lot of people still listen to the radio, and hopefully we can get them to make the drive out to Auburn and check it out.
That would be fantastic. Get more bodies in there to enjoy this show as it's come to be a bit of a racing staple here in the early spring schedule. It'll be happening just a couple weeks after all of the dirt modifieds make their way back from Volusia Speedway Park for the Dirt Car Nationals held down there in Florida. So be excited to see hopefully some of those cars coming back, hearing a little bit of Southern mud on them, unless they elect to, which is probably more likely, they elect to shine them all up for their displays. The show itself, in its third year, you sort of had it left to you, so to say, year one, and then last year was the first year they had the opportunity to put a full campaign into it. Now you've got a second one. Is it getting easier to put this show on?
I can tell you there's nothing easy about it. Last year, we learned a lot of lessons over the last couple of years. As you know, and I'm sure everybody who's been to Speedworld knows, that our show is way outside of the box, as motorsports shows tend to go. And every year we try something new here and there, and if something works, we go with it. If it doesn't work, then we scrap it and move on, or we try to make it better for next year. And we've added a lot this year, just working on getting some sponsorships together to make everything come to light. Mm-hmm. And, in the end, it all comes down to what we can afford to do. So hopefully this year we can put something together and make it great. And, as you know, we always try to start from the bottom up as far as that goes. It's a grassroots campaign, always. We're not a huge commercial show. The show doesn't take in any money. We don't make any money on the show. It actually costs us money to put it on. So that's just because there's no admission, there's no charge for displays, there's no charge for bringing your car out and setting it up and showing it. So we kind of start at the bottom and work our way up as far as everything goes. And this year we're really focusing on the kids, because I can tell you for the past 2 years I've seen a lot of bored kids, and that's one of the biggest things with having a family type environment like that. You have to make sure that all your bases are covered.
Right.
So this year we're really working on doing stuff more for the kids as well.
That's so. What are you doing in terms of trying to generate more interest for the young race fans?
Well, we've put a huge focus this year on entry-level racing. The New York State Mike Rod Association, or NISMA, the Syracuse Mike Rod Club, which I'm now part of their organization. I'm actually going to be their flagger for the 2018 season coming up here. So something new for me as well. So we're gonna see them in their Syracuse Mike Rod Club. Will be represented fairly well. Frank Dowell helps us out quite a bit with that. He works right there at Bass Pro, so he's always there part of the show. And Frank's, knee deep in racing his whole life. So,
sure.
Also the Syracuse Quarter Midget Club, I'm sure will be represented as well this year. The Oswego Club, if I know Waldron Racing will be there. Heath Waldron always brings his cars out.
Right.
So, that's kind of where we're starting. Of course, we'll reach out to Starlight Speedway again and see if they want to bring some go-karts up. And and we don't have to reach out to people; they can reach out to us if they want to display. So that as well. But more entry-level racing this year. We're really putting a big emphasis on that. Is
there any RSVP process that people, if they want to show off their carts or their cars or their trucks or whatever they might want to bring out there, do they have to RSVP ahead of time, or can they just pull up to the door and find a place to roll into?
Well, that's kind of a gamble this year, because I can tell you space is filling up fast.
Okay.
I was dealing with Greg Hickson. Greg has taken over promotional duties for Land of Legends Raceway, formerly Canandaigua Raceway Park.
Okay.
And under the leadership of Paul Cole out there, and they're really reaching out to racers in the community and everything like that to make racing a lot more fun.
Right.
I think, and to make things maybe a little bit easier on your weekly racers, and they want to showcase at our show. So haven't gotten a solid confirmation out of them yet. I do know that they're going to be there and represented, but they're probably going to be our headline track.
Okay.
So that is probably going to eat up most of the center court area. And
wow.
Still waiting to hear back from Daryl Ruggles. He always brings a car out.
Sure.
Dave Marcatilli, the dirt car sportsman champion for 2017, he'll be there. Also got confirmation from Ben Carlson. He'll be there with his sportsman car, I believe he has, and his cousin has a sprint car. He'll be there as well.
Eric.
And Eric, yes, and they will be racing Land of Legends this year, so they will be all displayed down the center area. Mike Rod clubs are going to take up some space. Paradise Speedway, I'm sure, will be there. Weed Sports Speedway, I just heard that Jimmy Phelps has confirmed that he's going to be participating with the show. Also, Dirt Motorsports Hall of Fame Museum will be represented at the show, and I believe they're going to bring some cars from the museum out again this year. So, taking the gamble to show up at the door and hope you can get a spot might not be a good idea this year. And I would like to have some kind of a footprint of the mall laid out before people get there too.
Right. Well, it does help for planning. The ease of moving the cars in was a little bit better when they had that electric buggy towing the vehicles up and down. Is that going to be available for folks bringing their cars in?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, and that was handy last year. I'll tell you, I couldn't believe how happy people were that they did not have to push their cars through the mall. Right.
I can appreciate that. Having helped moved a couple, I can appreciate that. The show itself isn't just for motorsports heads either. While it's got that motorsport slant to it, there's a lot of interactive displays and things along those lines. In the past, there's been racing snowmobiles, there's been motorcycles. Last year, for the first time, the Gasser Racing Series was involved with the Finger Lakes Mall show. There was a car from, I believe it was up in Vermont. It was an Opel Kadett drag car that raced with the GRS Series out of Western New York. Those guys came out of Buffalo to be part of the show and then left their cars there and themselves went back to the other side of Buffalo to be part of another show that was the same day, offering a lot of support. I anticipate some element of the drag cars will be back again this year. Looking ahead, We got a lot of names and stuff that are going on. What about the displays? A popular one that we had before was the concert. A popular one that we had before was the memory lane viewing booth, as it were, converting the old Champ store into a viewing area to watch old Super Dirt Weeks. Are any of those things going to be back?
Actually, this year, the Racing Theater is coming back. Hopefully we're going to have it in the same spot, the old Olympia Sports Store, because that always works out really well for us.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that Mel Thomas and Thomas Video Productions is going to run that this year. So
Right.
we'll be showing, we'll have a variety of things that will be shown in there, but I'm pretty sure that most of the stuff will be stuff from Thomas Video, and Mel's stuff is unbelievably good, and he'll have all of his Smash and Crash videos for the season, all the seasonal DVDs from the tracks. He'll have everything there for sale.
Sure.
On that. The Homemade Hall of Fame, I would like to bring it back this year. We do have a store space for it, so if we want to do it this year, it will be back. It didn't get a lot of response last year. I really don't think that people really get a handle on what that actually is.
Mm-hmm.
As many times maybe it's a little too far out of the box. I don't know. But it is a chance for people to display their racing relics, their own personal artifacts if they want to bring them out. Also, to pay tribute to somebody, they can do that as well. And,
right. Well, I think one of the things that Homemade Hall of Fame that confuses people is one, they don't want their stuff to be put in jeopardy. You know, some of the stuff's got some pretty deep roots in terms of being special to people, and they're afraid of putting it out there because they wouldn't want something to get damaged. Everything is under protection. It's not going to be wrecked or anything along those lines, because some of those things, if they're family heirlooms, they're priceless, and if not priceless, they're at least irreplaceable, because there's only so many of those that were printed, only so many of those items, be it autographs, be it pictures, be it race programs, be it chunks of race cars, whatever, that were produced and are available, and you won't see it again if those are somehow lost. The flip side of it, though, is that if you think about what a Hall of Fame is, a Hall of Fame is a museum dedicated to the history and recognizing the pivotal and likewise irreplaceable figures that helped form a particular entity. It might be football, it might be rock and roll, it might be baseball, it might be something as even more impactful as women's rights, like what we have right here in Seneca Falls. And what the Homemade Hall of Fame has turned into is an opportunity for folks to dig some of their stuff out that might not be within the public eye, and put those as relics so that they can have them on the wall, much to like of any other Hall of Fame that's out there. And that's where the homemade things come from. It's not curated. Homemade Hall of Fame isn't an actual Hall of Fame. It's a Hall of Fame that is being made for that weekend. And it may be the only time that collection of artifacts and historical pieces are together at the same time, potentially ever. You get people that bring the stuff back year after year that are part of it, that have some of their unique stuff there time and time again. But by the same token, some of the rare stuff might only come out one time, or it might skip a year, and then the other stuff isn't back. So to see all that stuff together in one spot, as a Hall of Fame that was literally an empty storefront that in a matter of 24 hours turns into a Hall of Fame with race programs and pieces of race cars and race helmets and advertising material and old T-shirts and old driver suits and things like that, just kind of put together because all of these fans share a common thread of being racing fans and motorsports aficionados. It's pretty neat the way that it comes together, and I agree with you. I'd like to see the strength of that grow a little bit, because it is something that's special, and it's something that you know, at the end of the day, you look at some of these other motorsports shows that are out there, it doesn't have that type of involvement. It's a motorsports show where there's the newest technology, the newest race cars, the newest this, the newest that, all on display, and all the cool old stuff that some folks may have never seen or never even knew about in motorsports. It's still sitting home on the shelf, and this is a way to get that stuff out there in front of fans.
Right, and the other concern, like you mentioned, about people worrying about stuff being secure, everything is inside of a store space, and it gets locked up before everybody leaves. So that, you know, it is guarded, and they have security at the mall. And also, this year we're going to have more volunteers with the show. In years past, the last 2 years, we've had probably no more than 4 people actually working the show.
Sure.
So this year we're going to have more people that are going to be involved. I'm trying to get some folks out of the Mike Rod Club to help out a little bit. And, just if you need somebody to babysit the Hall of Fame, then that's what you need, somebody to stand up there and kind of hang out and just make sure that the kids aren't knocking things over or whatever, people aren't trying to take anything, which generally we haven't had a problem with that, even in the past. So, but, the thing is that somebody goes up to the Hall of Fame and is watching the displays up there, they end up being the guy that everybody goes there and talks racing with.
Right.
So, and that's what happened with me. I go up there just to check and see how things were going on, and I got trapped in there for like an hour and a half, which, was great. I love it because that's what we're there for.
Yep. Another neat addition to the show is that the support from the model car community and some of the dioramas and displays and stuff that exist in the Central New York area. If you haven't seen them before, you're going to want to. A lot of support coming out of that community so far.
Yeah, I've heard some good things. I'm hoping to really rally some support about that and get some people there, because there are some really, really talented scale modelers out there, and I've seen some of the pictures posted on Facebook. There's a group on there, Dirt and Asphalt Modifieds, of yesterday and today, and you go on there, and these look like pictures that people took of actual race cars.
Right.
The work is so incredible, and they build scenes, and they build all kinds of stuff, and so I would like to really bring that out to the public. And again, this goes back to starting from the bottom up. Kids don't put scale models together anymore. When I was a kid, you got a scale model for Christmas. You got a race car model, you got something like that for Christmas, and you spent your vacation from school putting that model together, and you put it on your shelf in your room.
Right.
And kids don't do a lot of stuff with their hands anymore. So if they could see, wow, that's really cool, I really want to do something like that, and next thing you know, maybe the hobby business will start taking off around here again.
Sure. Hobby business gives us a nice jumping off point. There's going to be another Mud Boss Series race held at Small Addictions that weekend as part of a 2-day RC campaign that's going to be involving FingerLakes Speedworld. The RC Demolition Derby coming back on Sunday's program. Excited to have both of those elements back at FingerLakes Speedworld as part of that show, and it also coincides with an extensive push by the Northeast Mud Boss Series, which is the RC cars that are built on the Traxxas Slash two-wheel drive chassis that has a spec Lexan body built by Eric Salvas and Salvas Mud Bosses that look just like Northeast Dirt Modifieds. And in the middle of February, the series of February 17th and 18th, that series is going to be down at the Motorama Expo in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They're going to come back on March 3rd to be part of FingerLakes Speedworld, and then March 10th and 11th to be part of Motorsports Expo in Syracuse. So that becoming a bit of a central hub as the tour transitions from Pennsylvania back up into the home area here in the Finger Lakes. And then I think, if I understand correctly, Ed Brewster is going to be trying to make the trip up in March to be part of the RC Derby from down in Virginia.
Yeah, I spoke with him recently, and he said he's coming up. And that kills me that something... Do you remember our first conversation about the RC Derby and basically that I had hatched this idea to do this, and you said, oh, no, there's a whole community. They already do this. Mm. And next thing you know, it's your group is coming up, and now it's a national event. People are coming from out of state to come and participate in this thing. And people still don't believe me when I tell them that people come from 4 states away to come up here and participate in this event. And all the skeptics say, the naysayers, oh, no, nobody's coming up here for that. And then when you go and you look into the old Joanne fabric store, and people are 7, 8, 9, 10 deep all the way around the arena watching this happen in there. Mm-hmm. It's just unbelievable. So sure. That's that old you can lead a horse to water type thing,
Right. We've had representatives from Ohio, from Virginia, from Pennsylvania, all come up and be part of that. And then on the racing side of things, the projections are there could be as many as 40 cars for the RC race down at Small Addictions. And at some point, and I'm not sure when it is, but Small Addictions is talking about doing a transition from being at the bottom of the mall to building both a permanent oval and permanent off-road track at a different storefront elsewhere in Finger Lakes Mall, which would help accessibility significantly.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much. The space that's up at the top side of the mall by the old Joanne fabric store there is a great spot. And I know that when Brian was in that, when Brian started that store down there, and Chris was just running the hobby shop, Brian wanted that other spot, and he couldn't get it because they had something else in there.
Right.
And now that spot is empty, and they've already established themselves at the other end of the mall, now they got to pick up and move and do that all over again. It's frustrating, but I'm sure the move will be for the better for Chris. They're
gonna be happy with it. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna be up there. We're gonna be up there with all three of the shows from FingerLakes1.tv. 31st Lap is going to be involved with the show going live at some point through the course of the weekend. Likewise, with Final Round Drag Racing Podcast, probably Jason Oldfield will be out there along with that one, and then Crash Course Demolition Derby Podcast will be out there, focusing on the Demolition Derby side of things. The Demolition Derby collection has been pushed to the top of the mall in front of the RV Center at this point.
Yep.
And you've got a name for that corner.
Yes, that back hallway, it's where you come in at the old Sears entrance at the end of the mall, will be known as the Hall of Wreckers. So that is going to be the display down there. We're going to try to theme it up a little bit down there as well, and I may leave that more to the guys bringing the cars in.
Okay.
When they bring the Derby cars in. And I think the biggest reason for that was, and this probably should have been a no-brainer right from the get-go, is Derby cars don't steer very well. And
no, they
sometimes don't tow very well. So dragging them in from the east end of the mall all the way up through the whole thing to get them up to the top side of the mall was kind of ridiculous. So they'll have their own entrance down the other end this year, and we'll be good to go.
That'll work out just fine for those guys. I'm sure they're going to be thrilled.
Yeah.
And it also puts them in pretty close proximity to where the RC Derby is going to be.
Right, exactly. So, and we never had a plan for what to do up in that spot. And last year it was tough we had all the South Butler drag cars, the South Butler Vintage, their nostalgia drags all in front of that spot right down there, and it was beautiful. And then people were trying to get close to the cars, and the Derby cars were right up the middle because we had no place else to put them because we had more than we expected.
Right.
So now this year it's like, go ahead, fill that hallway, bring in 70 cars, put them on top of each other. We don't care.
Right.
and we'll get it done. So, also, just on a side note there, I don't want to get off track too far. I understand the South Butler Nostalgia Drag should be returning this year.
That's my understanding, yeah. Yep.
Okay, to go along with that, I have gotten involved with a group called Vintage for Veterans. And it's a group of women and a couple of guys. And the ladies in the group dress up in vintage clothing. They're like pinup models. And they do photo shoots, and the money that comes from any of the photo shoots they do or whatever they do, any events that they do gets turned over to veterans groups to support anything that has to do with veterans.
Right.
They will be attending the show. I do know that they're going to do a pinup model contest on Saturday at some point. And they'll be on hand with us all weekend to do photos with the cars and stuff like that. So they will be there.
Right. Fantastic.
So,
that'll be cool.
Good times.
That's very good. So, I mean, front to back, it sounds like the show is already plenty strong at this point, and there's no judging, there's no awards, there's no competitions other than the pinup model competition. There's nobody being put against one another, and it's open to all walks of motorsports. So you've got something that has a motor that is in competition with something else that has a motor at some point through the course of the summer. There is some nook and cranny that will fit into in some way, shape, or form when we get to FingerLakes Speedworld, one way or the other.
Right, and also we do have one award this year that's actually something that I'm working on, the Long Distance Award.
Okay.
So if somebody's bringing out a car, bike, go-kart, whatever to display, it's got to be, a full-size, whatever. Somebody who's bringing out something to display, we have whoever comes from the longest distance, we have a special award that they'll be able to take home with them. So,
fantastic.
Pretty cool. Yep. And so we have that, and that's pretty much all I got for you at this point. I know that Judy Smith will be back. She'll have we had the store that had the die-cast cars, all the NASCAR stuff.
Sure.
They'll be back this year, I believe. Told you about Vintage for Veterans. They'll be there, the model car show. So I think that, and Dave Axton will be back with Highside Racewear as well. So if you're going to come out and get measured for your fire suit for the 2018 season, that's the chance to get it done.
he had a great response, too. It seemed like that booth was busy the whole time that they were there. And on top of all this, the mall's going to be open. So that's one of the cool things is even the casual passersby who are there, picking up clothes at JCPenney's or swinging to Bass Pro for their outdoor needs or something along those lines, or even just a couple of people that were catching some food at the food court before they head into the movie theater. Even those passerbys are still being exposed to motorsports, and that might be the small spark that will get the fuse lit to get somebody into it.
Yeah, and that's what it takes. And I remember the first year that I took the show over, AJ Burgess from Little Wheels had come up and set up his booth, and he always he would always bring a couple of carts up and sign kids up for test rides and to get them interested in the show. And that was back before we moved the date, so Motorsports Expo was the weekend before.
Right.
And he had signed up 68 test rides at Motorsports Expo. At our show, he signed up like 300.
Wow.
so it was, and that lies what the difference with our show is. And we don't compete with other shows. We're not trying to compete with other shows because we're not a motorsports, like Motorsports Expo. Like you said, we're debuting top-of-the-line brand-new equipment at the show. You go pick up your schedules for the track, and you go grab a couple of beers and walk around and have a good time chatting with your racing buddies. This is a family show that we're doing here. You don't have to pay to get into it, so you can afford to bring the kids out.
Sure.
And, walk around and have a good time and spend the day. Mm-hmm. So, at least that's our plan.
Well, I'm sure looking forward to it. We're going to be doing, like we said, we're going to be doing some live content from down there. I'm going to try and get some of our buddies to make the trip out, stack that Demolition Derby area full, because that is one of the only times the Pittsburgh New Year's Eve parade has a Demolition Derby car in it every year from one of the Jason Sauer. Jason Sauer lives in Pittsburgh. He runs Most Wanted Fine Arts, and I'm going to tell him about the show. I'm going to try and get him to come up. So Jason, if you're listening, Jason had a 1973 Plymouth Fury that he cut apart and mounted to a wall that's now on display in Virginia. He's been all over the country as a graffiti artist. He's done the walls of Blizzard Bash, the dirt berm walls at Blizzard Bash in Topeka, Kansas. And last year he took a 73 clamshell wagon, and it was going to be a derby car for an event down in Florida. And he drove it all around Art Dazzle, which is in Miami, and frequently parked in front of the main entrance and stopped traffic and showed off this car painted up like an Ohio State car, or in the Ohio State sports theme. And this year, not only has he been invited inside to do what he does in terms of his type of artwork, he's also been featured in a book with the truck that he painted for Bash for Cash in Chillicothe, Ohio, as one of the top 100 most recognizable artists in America, which is a huge honor for him, and we're trying real hard to get him interested in coming up.
That would be excellent. And again, that's outside of the box of the motorsports community. That's the kind of stuff we want. Those are the kind of guys that we want to meet, are the real creators, people that you got to have heart in this to do this. I mean, I always say, and no offense to anybody who does, anybody can jump in $1 million race car and go out and run races.
Yes.
Okay? It's the people that put their heart and soul into doing what they do. And, and again, I'm not saying that somebody who drives $1 million race car doesn't have their heart and soul in it, but you also want to see the guys that wrench on that car in their garage every week and put it on that open trailer and tow it to the track behind a 79 Chevy station wagon. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those guys, they count too. And if it wasn't for them, this sport wouldn't have gotten its start, because this sport wasn't started by millionaires. This sport was started by guys knocking the windows out of their old family car and taking it out to a dirt track and beating the crap out of it.
Sure.
So,
well, it all comes together on Friday night, March the 2nd. The show, the March 3rd and March 4th next year. We'll be checking in with Jim a little bit more as we get closer. Jump online. There's a Facebook page. Always got to type in FingerLakes Speedworld. FingerLakes, 2 words. FingerLakes Speedworld. You can find the page. You can RSVP there. Find more information about it. Jim, man, I appreciate you coming on the show for a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving us the plug. Your support is what gets us there.
We'll keep doing it. We'll talk again here once we get past the new year. That is going to do it for this edition of the 31st Lap, coming to you live from the North Park building here at Academy Square in beautiful downtown Seneca Falls. That's going to do it for this one. We'll see you back in 2 weeks. Next week is going to be the Final Round Drag Racing Podcast occupying this spot. We'll see you then.